Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Book Bestie. I am your host Megan and I am the most organized, unorganized person you will ever meet in your life. So as 2024 starts, I feel like everyone gets this new sense of motivation and I feel like it's very hard to kind of maintain that motivation. I know that I am definitely one of those people. I feel like a lot of the internet, I find videos on YouTube and on TikTok and it's like, oh my god, do my bullet journal with me. And I'm like, I could 100% do that. Whatever. Get a bullet journal, buy all supplies. I'm like, this is going to be great. I make my cover page. I make like one habit tracker and I genuinely could not tell you where that bullet journal is now. I just find it really hard to stay organized. I feel like I get really distracted and almost lazy about it, which is obviously not helpful in any way, shape, or form. So this episode is going to center all around organization. I am a fourth year college student. I am a wannabe content creator, and I am also a massive reader. So I'm going to walk you through how I categorize and how I maintain and kind of keep an eye on everything that I'm currently doing. Just to start off, I'm currently reading Never by Jessa Hastings. It is a Peter Pan retelling. It's really odd so far. I'm not even going to lie. I am not that far into it. I think I'm only on like chapter 6 or 7. I am finding it a little hard to get into. But I really do want to stick with it because I'm really intrigued. Like the entire storyline so far is just crazy to me. And I really want to dive into it more and kind of really see what it's all about. So I'm sticking with it, but that is currently what I am reading. So the first point is something that is like so beyond basic and I feel like very underrated. It's just really weird to talk about organization tools. It's underrated. But I feel like when I watch all these like videos on TikTok and on YouTube and I see these people organizing and they have thousands of apps and 700 physical planners and everything. And like genuinely, the biggest thing I use for organization is my phone calendar. I have the memory of a goldfish, honestly. Like you say something to me, I'll blink and it's gone. I promise. Ask anybody in my life. So when I get a date for something, especially college, if I get a date for an assignment or something, immediately it goes straight into my phone calendar. Because it just means that now I have this date somewhere separate than just my brain. Because again, she doesn't hold a lot, okay? She really doesn't have a good grasp on life and what's going on. So as long as I have it somewhere else, I know that, okay, look, it's fine. I can go through my phone calendar and just see what's going on in my life at the minute. So I have my calendar split into 4 different sections. I have home, which is basically like birthdays and family events and stuff like that. I have college, so I have my breaks that I'm off. I have when assignments are due, etc., etc. Then I have money. So when like say my Kindle Unlimited comes out, I have that in my calendar and I have it set to give me a reminder the day before just to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And then I have work. So I just put all my shifts into my phone. They're all there because I have an app for work and it's the biggest heap of shit that I don't even want to get into it because I'll get bothered. So that is how I feel like I feel like it's best for me. As I said, memory of a goldfish. So I need to have everything laid out in front of me. And if I want to look for a college assignment, you can select that calendar. You can only see events from that calendar. And I just feel like for me personally, it is the best thing that I have really started to do religiously. It also means that sometimes when I'm in a class and I have like a notebook open or I have like a Word document and I type down a date, that's like gone. I have to go searching for that, but everything is in my phone calendar, very easy accessible. I have my phone calendar and not only obviously my phone, but I have it on my laptop and it's on my iPad and I have it everywhere that I could possibly need it. And I just feel like it's very helpful for me anyway, that I'm a very visual person. You'll learn that as we go on, but I'm a very visual person, so I like seeing those dates and where everything is. The second point is on my laptop, I have sticky notes. So on my background, I usually have a sticky note and it has all these dates that different assignments are due. As I mentioned, very visual person. So I feel like having them right smack bang there, I don't have to go looking for them. I don't have to think about them. I don't have to try and remember them. They are right there. Most of my college work, I'm studying TV and media. So most, if not all, of my college work is on my laptop. So every time I open my laptop, I have this big reminder of all my sticky notes, of everything that's due. I cross it off as I go. I'm a big list ticker. You can't beat it, honestly. There's nothing. I am also a really bad person for putting things on my list I already have done, because I like ticking it off and it makes me like feel better about myself. Can't be the only one there, I hope. I have a MacBook, so the sticky notes app already came on my Mac, but I feel like there are definitely apps that you could download off the internet that have the same vibe, have the same effect. It's just a big thing for me that helps, that I don't have to go looking for something. I don't have to go and try find out what this day is. I have it all smack bang in front of me. I can't forget it even if I try to, and it's just the easiest and the best option for me. The third point is I do own a physical planner. It's only like one of like the little ones. I switch a lot between loving digital planning and physical planning. I love writing things down, and I feel like it's very helpful for me to write things down. I feel like it almost cements it in my brain. So that helps so much with if I'm thinking about a date and I'm really trying to rack my brain. I can see myself writing it, and then that helps. Physical planners are definitely probably my least used method of organization, just because, as I mentioned, it's just I am a very lazy person sometimes. I'll own it, I'll put my hand up and I'll say it. I can be a very lazy individual. So I just feel like it's definitely the least used. I kind of end up sitting down for like a week at a time and like putting everything into it, and then I don't touch it for like a month. So I feel like it is definitely helpful for when I get into those bouts of not wanting to use digital planning. It's nice to have it. It's nice to kind of keep it slightly up to date, so that when I do have those phases, I can just kind of slip back into it, and I have all my dates and all my different ideas and everything are all in one spot. The fourth point is one that I feel very passionate about. That's so sad. That is my life. I love organization to a point where I'm passionate about it. The fourth point is something that I personally use the most easily, which is Notion. I started using Notion because of my sister. My sister has hers all perfectly laid out and it's gorgeous and all this kind of stuff, and I felt left out. Not even gonna lie, I felt left out, so I wanted to make a Notion. I used a template. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, I did not make this thing from scratch. It would not look as nice as it does if I made this thing from scratch. There are so many beautiful templates for so many different uses that there's no shame in using them. Like, please use them. And then I just got all the pictures that I have in it off Pinterest. My entire homepage is like Gilmore Girl themes. So I have like different quotes from the show, and I have like a Luke's Diner thing as like my banner. It's adorable. I'm not even gonna lie. Notion is essentially like my hub. It's where everything is. I keep kicking the light by accident, and you can definitely, I didn't realize you could see it the entire time. Sorry about that. I have been doing this for 7 episodes, in case you didn't realize. Sorry if anyone is watching the podcast. That was my bad. Anyway, as I was talking about, Notion is my hub. It's where everything is. It's where I know that I keep the most up to date. It's on my laptop, my phone, my iPad. It's everywhere. It's, again, very visual, which is beyond helpful for me. I know a lot of people do like a landing page, which is where you have just like all your pages listed and you can go in and out of them. That to me is too much work. I'll just be so honest. I don't need all that, So what I do is I have my main page, which is essentially all my college stuff. So on this page, I have a table right smack bang at the very first thing you see, and it is all of my assignments. Now I have this in a table view. So I have what the assignment is, how much it's going to be marked for, when it's due, what class it's for, and then I have my status. So I have that split into haven't started, have started, done but not submitted, and then submitted. That is my 4 different statuses that I have on that, just so I can keep on top of everything. And it's also ranked in terms of what's coming the quickest, in chronological order. That's the word I was looking for. This to me has been so helpful just because I felt like at the end of this college term, just before Christmas, I was swamped with so much stuff that I had to do, and I genuinely felt a little overwhelmed. So for me to be able to have that table, and as I said, tick things off, to be able to go through and make that be submitted, done, whatever. It goes down to the bottom of the list. It's gone out of my brain. I don't have to think about it. That was so satisfying, I feel like is an odd word to use, but I think it's the one that's coming to my brain. It just felt like this weight got lifted off my shoulder every time I selected something as submitted. I was able to kind of keep track of things. I was able to know what I had started, what I kind of needed to maybe get a jump at before finishing off something else. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes with college, you can get quite overwhelmed with how many different... When you're in secondary school, everything does mesh. You know, all your teachers are very aware of all the other classes you have, and they know what's going on and whatever. In college, it's not always like that. You have some lecturers who are very nice and they are very aware that you are doing a lot of other stuff, and they will kind of be like a little, do you have a lot due this week? Or you could say yes or you could say no, and they will change depending. But it's not something that a lot of lecturers are very aware about. It can sometimes feel like everything is all of a sudden due on the exact same day somehow, and you just don't feel like there is enough time on the planet to be able to get all of it done. So it's very nice for me to visually be able to see what I have going on, and I love when lecturers give you assignments way ahead of the day, because at least then it's, even if you don't start it, even if you haven't even covered the material that you're going to need for it yet, it's somewhere in the back of your mind that this is happening. So if stuff does start to kind of swamp on, you're able to realize, okay, I need to take a step back and I maybe need to get a start on this because this is also due and whatever. So personally, that is the first thing that is on my Notion straight away when I open it. Smack bang, right there. I can see everything and I can keep an eye on everything. So just under that table, I have a little separate page for my timetable. Very basic, has all my classes on it, where they are, what lecture it is, etc., etc. It's just, again, visual person. I like seeing everything. It's color-coded. It's gorgeous. Can't lie to you. And it's very, very helpful. And I actually need to change it because I have new classes now after Christmas. Beside that, I just have a really basic to-do list. It's just Monday to Sunday. I have everything laid out. This is probably the thing that I use the least on my Notion. Unless I'm in those very heavy organization moods, it's something that I just don't find myself filling out that much. I tend to just kind of go and hope that I'm doing what I have to be doing. But sometimes it does get filled out, like in terms of with this podcast is actually part of my final project. So I have on my Notion what day that I usually have my meeting with my lecturer that talks to me about the podcast and my final project and what I need, etc., etc. So it can definitely come in handy for stuff like that, like consistent meetings. They happen on the same day, same time every single week. So at least it's always there, I guess. I can see it. Also, it comes in handy with really busy weeks. Again, when you're feeling that overwhelming feeling, it's nice to sometimes break down an assignment. You know, if you have to do an essay, you can have, I'm going to do the research on Monday and then I can make a plan on Tuesday and start writing on Wednesday. I personally find that really, really helpful, just breaking everything down and really just seeing it for its bare bones. And again, it means that you can start ticking things off lists. You know, sometimes an assignment can be so big that when you break it down into smaller things like that, when you're ticking things off, it does make you feel a little bit better. At least you feel like you are getting towards the end. You can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel with it. So it's very easy to kind of ground yourself, I guess, if that sounds not super dramatic. And you're just able to get it done and just keep focused. Under that, again, I just have a calendar. It just has all of the dates on it from that table with all my assignments. So I'm able to see visually like where I'm at and where these are starting to become due and stuff like that. I just find that really helpful. again, I'll say it 700 times, I'm a very visual person. So if you say a date to me, it means nothing until I can see a calendar and actually like visually see it in front of me and make it make sense. So I feel like having the calendar just under it, it's not something that I go to all the time, but it's definitely really, really handy for me. And it's something that it's there, and I know it's there, and I can go to it if needs be. So under all of that, that's my college section over, and we move on to my second section, which is reading. In this, it is a separate page, so I just have like the little reading thing where you click into it and you go into the separate page. I started off with the table, and this table contains every book I own physically. And I have the table broke into the name of the book, the author, if I've read it, if so, when. So I have like the date started, date finished, what month it goes into. So it separates all my reads by month, which is very helpful. I also I have to have a section if I own it physically, or if maybe I want to start reading it and I want to buy it, I can throw it into that table. I also have, if it's part of a series. If you listen to episode 5, one of my main 2024 goals is to finish a couple of the series that I have started last year. So having it broke into those series is also very helpful for me. I'm able to visually see what's coming up, what I still have. Under the table, I just have a very general, it's almost like the same layout as a to-do list. And it's just my 2024 reading goals, which again, I talked about in episode 5. Just as all the stuff like I mentioned about reading classics, finishing off series, reading 24 books for the year. Very, very basic, but I like being able to see it. And above that as well is just also my reading goal. It's just like a little reminder, 24 books in 2024. I just like, again, I wonder what she's going to say. Visual. I love visual. I love being able to see. I love being able to visually know what's going on. And memory of a goldfish. If I don't write it down, it is gone. So I also have a list of the series that I've started. I have them all just, it's like, as I mentioned, to-do list kind of format. Take them all off. I have a huge list of series that I want to either read or finish this year. I've started so many. I've only finished one series so far this year, which is Twisted. I finished that series by Anna Huang, which is what last week's episode was all about. So yeah, I just have them all so I can visually see, because as I mentioned in, I think it was episode 5 as well, I've started some on my Kindle, and like, I just don't remember that I even started. I don't even remember that they were part of a series, you know? So it's very helpful for me to have them all just listed straight out. This is all the series that I started last year, or maybe even some of them the year before. Like the Inheritance Game, I would have started in 2022. What year? 2022. Sorry, I'm still getting used to saying 2024. We'll get there, but The Inheritance Game is one of them. I have to read the book that only came out last year, the Hawthorne Brothers, I believe. And then that series is done for me. I love having all my reading stuff on my Notion. I feel like just in terms of also doing this podcast, it's really helpful to be able to see what I have actually read in front of me. Like, yes, I can go to Goodreads and everything like that, and I'll get into that later. But personally, I love a good table. Can't lie. Love a good table. So I feel like it's just, it helps me plan. I'm really trying to get better at planning this year. Especially with the podcast. I usually find that it ends up that it is Thursday night and I'm like, oh fuck, I have to post a podcast tomorrow and I have no idea. So I'm really trying to get better at that, and I'm really trying to pre-plan. So being able to go into my Notion and physically see all the books that I've read and go, oh, I can do an episode about that book because I love that book and I'd love to talk about it. It just makes life so much easier for me. Which actually leads me to my final section on my Notion. Again, like my reading, it's an entirely separate page. It is an entire section dedicated to Book Bestie. So on this, again, I have a table. Who could have guessed? I have a beautiful looking table. It has each episode, if it's been posted, if it's not, what it's about, the date that it was posted. I have also like another status thing. So that's the idea. In production, filmed and edited, and then posted. I also have, just in general, like a bit of a view count. I like to kind of keep an eye on the views I get on YouTube, and then obviously the listens on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So it's just nice to be able to see all that and see what episodes did really well, what episodes maybe didn't do as well, to know how I'm going to go forward. So having that on the page where I do plan out the episodes, super helpful. Don't have to go looking for that information. It is all smack bang in front of me. I'm able to go scroll up to my table, go, okay, this episode did really well. Why did it do really well? I talked about such a thing. Maybe I can do this, which slightly relates back to it, and maybe we'll see how that goes. Obviously, the podcast for me is not all about getting views and listens, and as much as I want to build a little community, I don't care how big the community is. I really enjoy doing this, and I really, as I said in, again, episode 4 of the podcast, episode 4 or 5, I want to dedicate more time. I want to be able to put everything I have into this podcast. So being able to have everything so well organized just helps that. It only pushes that forward. I have a general list underneath that table as well of just like basic ideas. Like obviously like I have like Magnolia Parks is on there because I want to do an episode about Magnolia. And I have a couple others that I'm kind of starting to work on the research behind them. Sometimes those episodes probably will take a bit longer, and they may be few and far between now and the end of college, just because it does mean that I have to read the entire books and to kind of take notes as I go. So Magnolia is obviously a 4-book series, so I may split it up between 2 and 2, or maybe I'll just do like the Magnolia series and then the Daisy Hate series, whatever. So they are probably going to be like a little bit harder to do at the minute, as I mentioned before, and in this episode as well. I am a 4th-year college student. I'm in my last couple months now before I graduate and have to, do something with my life, which is just absolutely petrifying. But we move on before I start to panic. So having all of my Book Bestie ideas laid out there, super helpful. Under that, another table. Who's shocked? It has all the TikToks that I've posted since really kind of starting Book Bestie and stuff like that, just to kind of, again, keep an eye on what does well, keep an eye on what maybe doesn't do as well. I have the view count, the likes, a basic about what it's about. Nailed that one. If it's an idea or if it's done, if it's in my drafts, if it's posted, etc., etc. So it's just, Book Bestie is kind of my wannabe content creator section. So it's just helpful for me to have all that information readily available. Can't be lazy about it, even if I try, which sometimes, trust me, I do. So in terms of Notion as a program to use, I think it's really easy. My homepage is really the only one that has an aesthetic to it. It's the only one that kind of has pictures on it, and I have like some little widgets. Like I have a little counter that I can put the books I read this year. I have a little clock. I have little like icons that move and stuff like that. That is the only one I have all that on. The rest of them are very much so, they serve a purpose. So I feel like it's not, there are thousands of videos online about how to do your Notion and templates out there that you can use and all this kind of stuff. So it's really, I feel like it's quite easy to get into. And then considering that it's an app that you can get on your phone or your iPad or whatever, and then it's also available on your computer. It's everywhere, which I love in an organization tool. I love being able to access it wherever I am and being able to kind of look at it and be able to kind of regroup myself with everything that's going on at the minute. So overall, I feel like Notion is very, I'm not going to say beginner friendly, because you do kind of get that bit of a learning curve when you first start, and kind of, it's a lot. You can do a lot of different things on it, and being able to familiarize yourself with all of them can be a little holy shit. But I feel like if you do use a template, it's very easy then to just use it for its purpose. And yes, it can look nice and that's great, but it's not the end all be all if it doesn't. Like my Book Bestie page, it's 2 tables and a list, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing special. And I feel like that's the best. I get very easily distracted. Very, very easily distracted. So being able to have everything in front of me and not have anything to be distracted by is the best option for me. I sound like a freaking squirrel that just gets like distracted by something shiny. It's sad, but it's so unbelievably true. I have the memory of a goldfish and I have the attention span of a squirrel. That's my life. This is who you're getting organization tips from. I don't know. I don't know who I am to think I can sit here and do this, but I just wanted to talk personally about like what works for me, because I feel like I definitely can't be the only one in the world that just finds it really, really hard. And then especially when it's the start of the year, you get hounded with a lot. You get kind of, everyone's like, this is my year, I'm going to change everything about myself. And it gets kind of scary, because sometimes you're like, okay, I don't really want to change anything about myself, but I'd like to drink more water, you know? So it's like, I don't know. There's two very drastic differences there between what's logical and what kind of is very much so the trend of having New Year's resolutions. So I feel like when you start the year off with a good step with organization and kind of learning little tips and tricks about what works and what doesn't, you know, it can really, really help. And even if you do take like a month off of doing it, the world isn't going to end. You can get back to it again, put all that stuff into it anyway, because you can take it all off and it'll make you feel great about yourself. But I just don't find it realistic for me when I see all these girls on TikTok. Again, no hate, whatever. Literally none whatsoever to these girls that do this, because I wish it was me. It's just not. But they wake up every morning and they journal and they write in their planners and they have their whole life in this like little cute book, or they make the digital planners and they update it every second. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't think I could do that even if I wanted to. Gun to my head, I don't think I could actually realistically do that. I just feel like it's just not realistic for me and my attention span, my memory, my day-to-day life. Like, I am in college Monday to Friday, work Saturday, Sunday. I film, produce, edit everything, this podcast every single week. I promote the podcast every single week. So it's just something that when I can set up my Notion and I have it there and it's perfect and it's exactly what I need it to be, it just stops that need of, I can't keep putting it off because I'm like, oh, I have so much to do on it, because I don't. I just have to throw an assignment in, throw a date at it, and I'm done. I don't have this whole creating an entire layout around it, you know, and every single month having to do a whole new template, and I can't do that physically. For me, I just can't. I would love to be able to, but I can't. So that sucks. But anyway, I love Notion, so that helps. For my last point of this video, I just wanted to talk more about kind of reading and how I log my reading, what I do, etc., etc. I've talked a lot about how I use Goodreads. I know it's not everybody's favorite. A lot of people actually I've seen this year have switched over to Storygraph, I think is the other one. I tried to use Storygraph and I got very confused. I love Goodreads because it's so basic. Like, you just go in there, you say you're reading a book, you finish the book, you give it a rating, and you move on with your life. There's no, I don't know, I just don't feel like it's a lot to do. Again, are you seeing a similar theme here going on with my life? So I just feel like Goodreads for me is the best option, and I love using it, to be honest. Like, yes, it does crash sometimes, but I'm never in that dire of a situation to get onto my Goodreads that it actually annoys me. Usually I'll just go, I'll just do it later. It's whatever. So that's fine. That doesn't really bother me. Also, at the start of every year in my notes app on my phone, I create a folder. Just call it the name of the year. And within that, I create 12 separate notes with each month of the year. I just log my monthly reads into it. I just put the name, my rating, a couple brief sentences. Again, memory of a freaking goldfish. So it just helps me being able to remember what I read. Like, this sounds so bad, and I wish I could remember books as well as some other people do, but it's just, I can't. Like, I can barely remember yesterday, and you're expecting me to like remember an entire 800-page fantasy. That's just not gonna happen. So it just means that when it comes to doing the podcast, and if I wanted to do like a monthly wrap up, I can actually, you know, remember what I read and what I thought about it. So helpful. It also just helped a lot, actually, even for the episode I did of the podcast with the 2023 book tag. I just got the questions and was able to scroll through my notes app and just be able to be like, oh my god, this book, I loved this book, I remember loving this book, I'm going to put it in the book tag. So in terms of just making like TikToks and content and stuff, it just helps a lot with what I read. I don't have to go open Goodreads and for it to crash and me not be able to get into it. Have it all on my notes app, and again, I can access my notes on my phone and on my laptop. So if I finish reading something on my laptop, while I'm on my laptop, I don't read on my laptop, there we go, I can just log it in there and we're good to go. So they are all of my organization tips. I feel like this is going to be quite a short episode. I do apologize, but I feel like it's something that I feel like I finally got a good grasp on, is organization, and I had a lot of trouble kind of getting there. So I feel like even if I can help one person out there kind of get their shit together, that would be great. I'm not a big New Year's resolution person. I feel like you can decide halfway through December that you want to change everything about yourself. I don't think it needs to be like, oh, new year, new me, because if you are unhappy with something in your life, change it. If you want to start working out, you don't have to wait till January to do it. I feel like I have a lot of the basic ones, like I just want to drink more water, which is something I'm very bad at. I get bad headaches. It's my own fault 90% of the time. And then I just have like my generic reading goals, but you know, I thought of a lot of these reading goals like October-ish, so I'd already kind of started to work on them. I don't know, I just don't think it's all that serious. And if you want to do everything, go for it. If you don't, okay. It's whatever. I just wanted to personally do this episode to be able to maybe help somebody out there with their organization if they are kind of the same as me. It is hard to find out what works, and then sometimes you're feeling very overwhelmed to a point where you don't actually even have time to try and look for something to help you. So I really hope that this does help, and maybe if you are still off break from college or school or work, it's something that you can kind of work on now and have ready for when you go back. But yeah, that is everything that I wanted to talk about this episode, which is, again, I feel like it's going to be quite a short episode, so I am sorry. But I feel like it was an important one, and it's one that I really wanted to do. So I hope you enjoyed it regardless. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram at Book Bestie Pod, or my personal Instagram is Megan_Jor. On TikTok, Megan_Jor. Make sure you rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps tremendously. It means that both those platforms will push the podcast more, which obviously helps us make new besties. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment as well. What are you reading at the minute? What tips and tricks that you've come up with yourself that have helped you tremendously? I would love to hear them, because even though I do have like this system in place, I'm always looking to improve it, and I would be really interested in what you guys do. But yeah, I think that is it. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Bestie. This is episode 7, which is crazy. We're almost at 10. I feel like I have to do something big for 10. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Bye.